My father passed away October 18th of 2006, is still on an inactive roll and under 2 addresses, I might add. Should he not be completely off because he is deceased?
Yeah, well, that would make sense. But
Well, then why?
Okay,
Why? Okay, what? Okay, I want to know why. I want to know why he is still on the list with 2 addresses
I'm
on
guessing
an
there's,
inactive
yeah,
list.
there's probably a lot of people on inactive.
Okay, so
that
would
passed
it
away.
right there say our elections are not secure?
No, that
No.
the inactive list is not the poll list. The poll list are the
But
actual
it
active
can
voters.
be switched. It can be gotten.
What, you know, I
You know, we
want
live in a digital age and a lot can happen in the flip of a switch.
so,
And I want to know what I can do to get my father off the inactive list. And I believe my mother-in-law is on there too.
have you asked your municipal clerk?
No?
That's
Why do I
where you
have
go.
to?
I
I'm just asking.
kind of go to bat for my municipal clerks here. They follow processes and procedures, and what we oftentimes, when what we're saying is our municipal clerks are going to randomly activate deactive voters. I mean,
But random shouldn't be in the equation.
they don't, and it's not a simple flip of the switch. No, they have to sign in, double authentication. They have everything they do in the system is tracked. It's date stamped, it's time stamped. Every single thing that the municipal clerk does within that system is recognizable and provable. And so if you have a question about your municipal clerk doing something that's not proper or legal, we can address that. But they don't. They take their job seriously. They want to make sure they do a good job. They don't want to jeopardize their reputation among their family, their friends, their coworkers. They don't want to jeopardize a felony
What about
in order
jeopardizing?
to activate people that are not eligible voters.
What about
That's saying, that is really going a bridge too far for our municipal leaders.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna ask this question and I'll go to my seat. With so many states opting out of the ERIC system over the last 2 years, do you believe Wisconsin should continue its statutory contract with ERIC or create your own in-house or third-party private sector movers list contract to remove ineligible electors from the WisVote database, which is where my father's at?
Megan, I'm not gonna let you take this. I'm gonna take this. It was my bill and it was my law, and I thought it was a great system because we had numerous databases combined with numerous states that were a part of the ERIC system. All of the data, the names, the addresses, all of that information was encrypted. It met Senator Kapanga's standards, which I thought was pretty good. That information was going to be encrypted. We were going to compare that against voter participation in other states, and then we would get information back once we've done our voter registration information data that we have to voter participation. Then we would send that into the ERIC system, run it against all the other participating states, and we would get information back that somebody voted in another state and in the state of Wisconsin, and we would take action and we would look into all of that. And lately, with the partisanship the way it is in this country, where everybody is at each other's throats, that somehow the ERIC system is blue and not red. We have a lot of Republican and Democrat states that were a part of this system. It is the only system in the United States of America where you're able to check voter participation from one state to another. And it just saddens me that not all 50 states aren't in it. And maybe at some point they will, but that's why we're in it. We want to verify that the people voting in the state of Wisconsin are Wisconsinites, and that the Wisconsinites aren't also voting in another state. And I recommend that the ERIC system. And I don't know why red states, a few, decided that it was politically expedient or for some partisan reason, wanted to get out of the ERIC system, but it's the only system we have. And so if you're concerned about interstate voting, double voting, triple voting, we'd have nothing then. We would have nothing. Any other comments from the crew over here? Okay, next.
Hi, thank you for listening. Aside from the fact that my friends and I personally witnessed numerous counts of fraud in the Milwaukee recount, but the judges refused to address any of it. My question is, on several occasions at numerous polling places, I have been an observer and noticed the tabulation machines hooked up to the internet all day long. And I've asked, why is this hooked up now? They said, oh, we need that hooked up so when we're done counting at night, we can forward the results. I said, no, you can plug this in at night after the results have been tabulated and then send the results. Any self-respecting 14-year-old could easily hack into this system. At that point, at these various sites that I was observing, I was told if I said any more about this, they would call the police on me and take me out. I'm wondering why we can't raise legitimate questions about the vulnerabilities of our system when all they have to do is unplug it and later on after the tabulation, plug it back in order to send the results. Once we have clean results, and then people with nefarious intent can't hack into the system.
I appreciate that, and Megan, would you like to comment? I think the policy and the process is that it doesn't get plugged in, or maybe the county clerk here would be able to state. I'm not saying you didn't. What I'm saying is they're not following the procedure, and the clerk can comment on it.
For us in Washington County, our poll workers and municipal clerks know that they should not be plugging them in until after the results tape is run, and then they're ready to modem, which would be after 8 o'clock. So if you do have legitimate concerns, I would definitely like to hear them so they can be addressed. So you can reach out to me at the county offices, you can call me, you can email me. I definitely would like to address that if it was done here in Washington County.
These were in Ozaki and Milwaukee counties.
Okay, you can go to if your chief inspector is in charge of the polling place, right? So your chief inspector is the one that made that decision. I would encourage you to have a talk, go into the clerk's office and have a talk with your clerk about that concern.
I was just going to add that you could be assured that Chief Daring, if that were in West Bend and there was a concern about a polling place or a poll worker, our clerks would be dispatched right away. The chief would send an officer. You're going to hear about this in a little bit. We're almost to the election day. Part of our presentation.
We haven't even started the election day.
We're almost to it, and you're going to hear more information about that. So a couple more questions, and then if we could get on to the rest of the presentation, that would be awesome, and then we'll go through some more questions in a minute.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I have a question about the security of absentee mail-in ballots. If I go to a polling place and I vote, I got to show my ID that I'm validated in that. If my understanding in Wisconsin is somebody sends in a mail-in ballot, as long as all the info is filled out and there is a signature, it could be anything, an X, a scratch, nothing verifies that that's back to the actual voter that voted. In Arizona, they supposedly compare the signatures. So my question is, how do you verify when there's a mail-in ballot that somebody didn't just go to an apartment building and grab a stack of ballots? As long as everything's filled out, how do you know that's actually the voter that voted?
There's a couple of different ways. Who would like to take that? Our municipal clerk?
You'll know that I'm not a municipal clerk, but I do know that we receive by mail ballots all of the time, and our clerks process them, they look for the appropriate information. They do receive them at City Hall, or actually you could vote tomorrow between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. And if you provide all of the appropriate information, our clerk will take that ballot and it'll be processed on April 2nd, election day.
Signature is the only thing that actually shows that it's you, because I don't have my driver's license at the time I make the ballot. So the only thing we can actually verify is the actual voter is the signature. Do we compare signatures?
When you request an absentee, you must provide a copy of your photo ID, number one. Number two, if you get the absentee ballot, it's got the serial number and all of that on it. You also have to have a witness. You have to have a witness that's going to swear you are that person who just filled out that ballot and sign it.
So we don't verify signatures as long as everything's filled out and goes in the file.
You have to have voter registration with your signature on file. You have to have a request for absentee with your signature on file. You have to have your signature on your envelope, and you have to have a witness.
And I would say, to answer your question, there is not signature compare in the state of Wisconsin. That would require a change in the law. So there are states where there are signature compares. I've actually seen it, in Illinois and other places. I've watched their process. It's quite complex, but if the law were changed, could be something that could be implemented. That being said, your municipal clerk, they do use signatures if there are things like allegations of voter fraud. So let's say somebody challenges if a ballot was lawfully, submitted, things like that, and they're working through the referral process to the district attorney. Like Kathy said, they are going to look at all those different places where a signature appears, and they're going to provide that to the district attorney as part of the body of evidence for them to take a look at. So we don't have signature compare, but there are a few places where those are used by the clerks to investigate.
I just got back from Arizona. They have a lot of complaints too.
Hi, thank you for taking our questions tonight. And basically, as a poll worker, I just want to encourage anyone who hasn't been to a public test of equipment to turn out tomorrow at the City of West Bend to see how high-tech the voter equipment is. And I love technology, but I do not trust it in my election system. And as a poll worker, at the end of the night, we sort every ballot from the machine into absentees versus in-person ballot papers. So we are touching every ballot in that machine. Why? I'm assuming it's a WEC guidance that municipal clerks do it, and why would we not want to compare the top of the ticket hand count results immediately after polls close to get the most accurate machine verification confirmation on election night? So my question to you is, can WEC, and would it behoove us to have WEC give guidance to do a top of the ticket candidate hand count at the same time that we are sorting them anyway as absentee ballots versus in-person ballots? So we can check the distribution on the machines in real time. So my real question is, why would we not want to do that from the WEC guidance perspective? And what is the time limit for getting results in? I thought it was a continuous counting state, so we have no timeline requirements to get our results in. So just the top of the ticket race, hand count it for machine verification on site at every municipality, just to confirm results of the election equipment.
Thank you for that question. It's clear that you know a lot about the election process, so I appreciate the thoughtful question. So in terms of it being a WEC guidance scenario, I don't think that this would be a place where the commission could prescribe that, because the statute does say what a canvas looks like, what a municipal canvas looks like, and that's the process for, as I'm sure you know, that's the process for verifying all the artifacts of the election at the municipal level before they very quickly have to be turned over to the county for the county to do their canvas. Some counties do some levels of audits during that process, that canvas process, but I think it would probably require a change to the statutes to require municipalities to have to do some type of additional check on election night. You are right about Wisconsin being a continuous count state. So in the state of Wisconsin, all ballots have to be received by your municipal clerk by 8 p.m. on election night to be counted. The only exception to that is what's called provisional ballots, and there's very, very, very few of those issued in the state of Wisconsin. It's usually less than 100 statewide. In other states, there's tens of thousands of provisionals that are issued, but that's for another day. But all ballots have to be received by 8 p.m. on election day, and once the clerks and the poll workers, once they start canvassing, once they start tallying ballots, they can't adjourn and reconvene. So that means everything has to get done in one straight shot. You don't have the ability to say, well, you know, it's 2 a.m., we've done enough here, we're gonna go home and we'll come back tomorrow. Once you start counting in Wisconsin, you have to continue counting until you're finished in the state of Wisconsin. So just a little bit of, you know, background there. But I do think to add an additional process to that election night procedure would require likely a change in the law to either modify those timelines or to give the clerks the authority to be able to do something additional before they have to pass the information off to the county.
Okay. Yes.
You seem to throughout the entire presentation to be putting a lot of burden on the local clerks. The local clerks don't get their poll list correct until Thursday. The election's on Tuesday. How the hell do you expect them to go through the list, determine who's dead, who's moved, and everything else? And then at the day of the election, the clerk in our particular township, I'm going to be a poll worker, said, I hide in the office, the chief inspectors are the ones that are in charge. You said that every time an absentee ballot is fed in, they have to call it off, and there's a right of an observer or someone to challenge it. So what you're basically doing, you're relying on a hit and miss procedure to try to catch me in the front, meaning someone who's not a poll worker who has to be there has to sit there from 7 o'clock in the morning when they open till 8 o'clock at night to observe everything that's occurred. Or else there's no check on whether the absentee ballots are being processed correctly or whether the voter lists are maintained properly. I mean,
So-
how does that work?
Let me help you. The municipal clerk has access to the voter rolls 24/7, 365 days a year. That municipal clerk has electronic access to the voter rolls all day, every day, unless she wants to have off. And so they have access to all of that. They can continually clean it up and work it, whatever they need to do. They print off their poll lists at a particular date and time, correct, to make sure everything is as accurate as possible. And then they provide supplemental lists on the back of the poll list for individual supplemental late registrants. Does that make sense? Anyway, they have supplemental lists when they need them. And so that clerk, we're not putting anything on the clerk that they don't know they're already responsible for. And then in your polling place, the clerk, and sometimes in partnership with the county clerk, they train and educate a chief inspector, usually two, one R and one D. And they always try to get an R's and D's in the polling place for checks and balances. In addition, your polling place has an opportunity for observers, and so they come in and observe. And so if your party, if your county party has submitted their list for workers, then they are the ones that will be working the polls, and they can do split shifts. But there are eyes and ears at every single polling place the entire time they're there. So I'm not sure if I'm quite understanding what your concern is.